It's amazing how in media there's these magical moments. And there was one that happened where a contestant on X Factor decided to use that opportunity to spread awareness about autism. Take a look at this fantastic moment.
Tyler, tell us about your family. Are they here with you today?
My family is here with me today. I have a 5-year-old son named Lyric. I've got a 3-year-old daughter named Loxley, and I've got one due next month. And my beautiful wife, Libby, is backstage right now with him, keeping him contained. And my son is actually, he's special needs. He's been diagnosed autistic. So when we moved back here to Australia, I had to stay at home with him.
I got you.
My son was about 18 months old, and we'd noticed he progressively started slowing in his speech and social behaviors. Where is she? Where is she? We had taken him to a pediatrician, and in the process had realized that he was on the autism spectrum scale. We didn't know what that was going to mean. I knew that I needed to be available for my family. So what I did was grabbed my guitar, learned a few cover tunes, made a few demo CDs, and started going around to the pubs in Echuca trying to pick up some work on the weekend. I would love to stop playing in pubs. I'd love to start playing my own music.
So you're like Dad of the Year. Well, I'm sure you're going to do them proud today. I hope you're great. I hope you're great.
Me too. Jury's still out on that one.
Jury's still out.
I'm not crazy, I'm just a little impaired. I know right now you don't care, but soon enough you're gonna think of me and how I used to be.
Well, I had no idea that happened all the way back in 2013, but I have been talking about the fact that the world is changing. As I turn on my social media, it used to just be the HighWire. It used to just be me talking about vaccines and autism and things like that. But now, as I've said, my feed is filled with all of these great new voices. And one of them was this guy, Tyler Hudson, that started popping up my feed with amazing connection to this conversation about vaccine injury, a reality around autism most people are afraid to share. And so we decided to get to the bottom of who is this guy. So we sent a team of our producers and directors out to Tasmania to do a little backstory. This is the story of Tyler Hudson and his family.
Growing up in Pampa, Texas, I was a church kid, learned to play music in church band, and that just ignited a passion in me for music. I had a high school band, we traveled around, and I had always had a fascination with adventure in Australia. 2 weeks out of high school, I hopped on a plane, started studying music at a Bible college in Sydney. I fell in love with Australia, fell in love with the culture, and fell in love with a beautiful young Australian. Libby and I got married. We always wanted to be parents, and so when Libby surprised me with the magic wand telling me she was pregnant, we were thrilled. The pregnancy with Lyric was totally normal, other than the fact my wife legitimately wanted to name him Optimus Prime. And we compromised on Lyric because I'm a musician. The closer to the birth that we came, the more excited we got. We just couldn't wait to be parents. And I remember day one with my son Lyric in my arms, this precious little baby that you can't believe that that you made this. This is half of me sitting here in this precious little human for the first year of his life. He was meeting all his milestones, laughing, giggling, crawling, began walking. At about 9 months old, he began start speaking, saying mom, dad, truck, cow. We went in for all of our checkups, received all of our vaccinations on schedule. So when we took Lyric in for his 12-month checkup, that's when he received his MMR, pneumococcal, and varicella vaccines all on the same day. That marks the beginning of when he stopped developing. The words that he had disappeared. He would no longer make eye contact with you. It was hard to get his attention. He'd look straight through you, just sitting, chewing on a stick, staring off into space, and he just seemed unsettled. By the time he was 2, we clearly knew that something was indeed going wrong. We'd received the referral from our GP, and she observed Lyric in his natural environment, had a few tests that she conducted with him. She says, "Oh yeah, he definitely has autism." And it's like a sledgehammer to the chest.
Off to school, off to school.
For the next few years, you were just taking it one doctor's appointment at a time, naively trying to get our son verbal so that he could go to school. Because you still don't understand the reality of profound autism. As I began doing my own research, I knew that the vaccine schedule aligned with our son's regression. He was still not speaking. He had severe gut dysfunction. So for the next few years of our lives, we just continued doctor's appointments, therapies, interventions, diets, traveled all over the world, anything and everything, be it spiritually, medically, nutritionally, whatever, to mitigate the struggles that he was facing, trying to produce a miracle for our son. And nothing's changed at all. The message being told to us was to stop striving and learn to be at peace. And that was devastating news for us because I had to let go of fighting. And I was actually ready to, because I was tired of relating to my son as a problem to be fixed. And I had enough. I knew I was at a crossroads. I could go with plan A, unplug from society, disappear into the Tasmanian wilderness with my son, never be seen from again, or plan B, I could try to change the conversation. I could speak up, I could let my voice be represented, because I wasn't hearing my perspective represented anywhere in the autism space.
I'll lose followers over this one, but I don't care. It needs to be said. Autism awareness has become autism acceptance.
Should the autism spectrum be split? Hell yeah!
Being a parent of a profoundly autistic child, you deal with a lot of things, but the one constant is poop.
One time, I have shared a meltdown. I had people calling me names. I had people saying, "Oh, you shouldn't post that." You've got no problem me posting the cute little stories because it makes you feel good about, oh, yay, we're accepting of autism. Are you accepting of autism if you don't look at the shadow side that parents suffer with and deal with every day?
Today is my 324th wedding. My son will be an adult, and I'll have paid off my mortgage. If you're doing it tough, hang in there. I've had so many dark days, but today, I'm really excited to get started in the season.
We will look back on this time in history in 50 years, and it will be obvious what the cause of autism was. Come on, let's be brave, and let's look for a cause.
He's the author of this brand new book, The Missing Lyrics, A Father's Story of Autism, Grief, and a Society in Denial. This book pulls no punches. It is actually very refreshing to have someone not dancing around this topic, and I'm honored to be joined now by Tyler Hudson.
Pleasure to be here, Del. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for writing this book. Thank you for, I've been watching on social media. You are really swimming upstream in a world that is really trying to whitewash this conversation. And I have rage over it. I've been deep in this. I've met so many families, but I'm not really allowed to be the one because I don't have a child going through this. But for you, what is this moment like as you watch your journey there?
Yeah, pulls at all the heartstrings. There's no doubt about it. We live, as that package showed, in the Tasmanian wilderness. And that was part of our process with just trying to come to peace, to have as many controllable factors as we could. Where is Lyric happy? He's happy in nature. Well, let's go live out in nature and let's unplug from society and let's just learn to be happy. And he is a beautiful, beautiful boy. He's non-speaking. Yes, he has all the comorbidities that come with autism. And
like what? What does that mean? For
so
watching isn't experienced.
Well, There are biomarkers to autism, but autism is diagnosed based on behaviors. So what we've seen happen over the last, since the DSM-5 in 2013, is you now have adults self-diagnosing as autistic, creating YouTube channels, telling the world about what it's like living with autism. And who I never saw represented in any form of media was a child like mine, a child that was nonverbal, self-harming, requires significant support. And slowly, our experience has just been diluted out of the autism conversation because it's not a conversation society wants to have.
Yeah.
Because I believe that we are in denial about the autism epidemic and nobody wants to have the difficult conversations. So looking back on that package, I can see myself going through these stages of grief, denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and finally when you arrive at acceptance, I just can't disengage from trying to make the world a better place for my daughters and their future children. And that's why I decided to write the book, because in 50 years' time, I can't live with myself if I don't be truthful about our experience. And there's so many families out there that don't have the capacity to create a video or be online to try to have these conversations, because they're in the absolute trenches dealing with children that are far worse off than mine. And so I just had to begin to speak up and let our perspective be heard.
It's been a long, I mean, first of all, this book is brilliantly written.
Thank you.
It's rare to find someone that can so honestly share their experience. And if anyone is feeling abandoned right now in this autism journey, that are, have a child with the type of autism you're talking about, and we'll get into, I think the spectrum is so vast now, there is a group that's being left behind. But even more than that, I think this book, it's like reading anything. It doesn't have to be my story. It's your journey through grief. It's a journey of empowerment. I kept thinking of the prayer of serenity, right? Give me the, the ability to change the things that I can, to accept the things that I cannot, which is just what we all grapple with in life. And we watch that in your family, your relationship with your wife. You're so honest, and there's other issues that come up in your life. But when we all go through difficult experiences, I have said, though, with the families I've spent, I don't know many that can compare to raising a child that is severely autistic. It is a 24-hour-a-day journey. What was the hardest part? This is a journey of grief. What is the moment that stands out as being one of the most difficult?
I think as in the early days, you hold on to hope so readily because you think that you're going to grab your child by the hand and you're going to walk out of this diagnosis together, that you are somehow going to find healing, you're going to unlock it, whether it's spiritual, medical, whether it's new therapies, whatever. And you can only live in that state for so long before it just produces an insurmountable amount of angst in life. And that's part of that anger and bargaining stages of grief. I describe them as these spinning plates. You just keep denial, anger, bargaining, all of them spinning at the same time. If you let go of any one of those things, your whole life just comes crashing down.
When you say bargaining, what do you mean by bargaining?
So bargaining for me represented as how I processed my son's diagnosis was that, okay, God made my child this way for a reason. You begin participating in these mental gymnastics to make sense of the situation. And I believe that society is caught up in that space as it relates to autism. We don't understand it. So the next best thing is just to try to, what happens is it gets sanitized. We say, oh, autism is a superpower. Well, it might be for that person. It's not for us. There's no evidence of savant-level telepathic communication going on with us.
Well, I mean, your son can't live on his own.
He can't live on his own. And when you realize that, okay, he's now 18, he's an adult, there's nothing between 18 and 80 for him, that changes the conversation a lot. In society, there's compassion available for the small child that everyone knows has a disability. But what about when he ages out of that and turns into an adult, and now his behaviors are perceived as can be perceived as threatening? How does he function in society?
that he will require significant support for life. And that was probably the most significant portion of our grief journey was the acceptance and the depression of what came with that.
I think about that a lot because I've been on all sides of this. Of course, making Vaxxed, I interviewed many, many families and thousands on the journey of traveling with that film. But I struggle because on one hand, there's a lot of great breakthroughs.
Yep.
Everyone comes up to me, I want to get on your show, I have the cure to autism. Yeah. So I try to imagine what it's like as a parent to hear that.
My inbox is full of cures.
Yeah. And maybe one of them is out there, but I've watched the parents that have tried every single thing they've come in contact with, and there are some that are successful.
Yep.
Or at least to a degree. They move their child out of severe autism, get them speaking, manage to even maybe get them into college. But I struggle even with those stories because what I don't want to say to the audience is we have found the cure. I mean, until there is one that works for everybody, because I imagine parents out there like you, and I try to imagine, you see some people having success. I am trying that, it's not working. I'm trying that. What is that journey like? Especially, I think in men tend to leave in these situations because we're fixers. And once we feel like we can't fix it, the sense of failure overcomes us, and many mothers are left with the autistic child alone. So good on you for staying in there.
Well, that journey is very real, and for me, that manifested in itself that I didn't feel like a good dad because I couldn't solve the problem. After years and years and years, none of these miracle cures worked for us. I'm so glad that they've worked for other people. But at the end of the day, my son didn't need a mentor. He needed a carer. And that role typically falls to a mom, particularly in the earlier years. And so I chased significance, and the only profession that didn't confront me with my inadequacy, and I just worked. I threw myself into work and said, well, whatever the future holds, we're going to need more money. So, sweetheart, you got the kids. I'll go take care of the money. And it nearly cost me my marriage, that season of grief for us. And these are conversations that we don't have in the autism space because they're too confronting. Society doesn't want to talk about them. I got a comment this morning. The term cure was used, and they said, please don't use the term cure. And I was like, oh, okay, fine. How about bringing order to disorder? How about lessening someone's struggles? Even the word cure is offensive, and the autistic community has done such a good job of creating awareness and creating inclusion that it now becomes about policing the words that we use in order to talk about lessening someone's struggles. And when you get a little bit older and you look at it generationally and you're starting to look at things in the timeline of decades, you think, why would we want to suppress information that could help limit the prevalence of autism for the future? Yes, there's a genetic component, but genetics is just the rug of mystery that everything we don't understand gets swept under. Lung cancer was once solely genetic. In 50 years' time, I believe it will be self-evident what contributed to the causes of autism in our society today. Not for everyone, but that leads itself to greater distinction in the spectrum as well. It's very possible my child doesn't have autism. He has symptoms from a vaccine injury that are identified as autism. It may not be autism. We don't know because there's less and less clarity in the spectrum, and that all of these voices, it's a cacophony of chaos at the moment, and we need greater distinction so that we might limit this condition for future generations by mitigating their exposure to factors that contribute to autism.
Well, I will say, given the definitions as I know them, and given, let's talk about severe autism, inability to speak, I think would be...
That has to be the main criteria.
It has to be a main criteria. And it's really been a disservice. Though I'm sure the, DSM-5 broadening this category, expanding to include Asperger's, where a kid can be valedictorian of a university and go on to make hundreds of thousands of dollars as a scientist or mathematician or something like that. I guess, I know there's services that must be made available because they still have difficulty in their childhood to get to that point. And so let's just, give everybody services, but it has just made it so that people like you are not allowed to speak your truth.
Correct.
I'm sure you know I had an opportunity to be Director of Communications for Robert Kennedy Jr. He and I share a passion on this along with you. I want to just to speak to sort of what happens when you're trying to have a conversation, how nuanced it's being forced to be. This is Robert Kennedy Jr. as HHS Secretary.
Autism destroys families. More importantly, it destroys our greatest resource, which are our children. These are children who should not be suffering like this. These are kids who, many of them were fully functional and regressed because of some environmental exposure into autism when they're 2 years old. And these are kids who will never pay taxes. They'll never hold a job. They'll never play baseball. They'll never write a poem. They'll never go out on a date. Many of them will never use a toilet unassisted. And we have to recognize we are doing this to our children, and we need to put an end to it.
He came under incredible, here's just some of the headlines from that. Say, mother of autistic children calls RFK Jr.'s autism claims almost laughable. DREDF denounces RFK Jr.'s comments on autism as hateful, harmful, and uninformed. Many in the autism community say RFK Jr. is pushing harmful and regressive rhetoric about who they are. It goes on and on and on. And honestly, I spoke to him after. He's like, I was no longer directing communications. He's like, oh boy, Dale, I really blew it. He was like, no, you did not.
No.
No, you did not.
He spoke the truth for families like mine, and I thank him for doing that. And that speech is what ignited that book, because I thought, finally, someone in authority is taking this seriously. This is fantastic. First of all, where's the lie? You would struggle to find parents of a profoundly affected individual that disagree.
Which is clearly who he's describing. He's not describing the Asperger's, you know. So why are they putting themselves? I mean, when the families around. I don't mean to put that down. I get it. It's like, this is what's so hard, but he's clearly describing profound autism there.
He spent 20 minutes talking about profound autism before those hurtful remarks.
Right.
But the media manufactured outrage towards those hurty words and incited rage for against the higher functioning, that they became the focus of it, not those most profoundly affected who do not have their own voice to advocate for themselves. He was speaking up for them. And when I hopped online after that speech, I was ecstatic. I thought, yes, we're finally going to be pursuing studies that will help children in the future. And then I saw the outrage, the media manufactured outrage towards those remarks. And an advocate I had followed for years, and I quite looked up to her quite a lot. I thought, surely she'll help calm the storm, and said, this is just dirty old politics. But instead, she shared an article that said, keep my son's name out your mouth. And she was furious that RFK was suggesting autism was a problem that needed solving. And I'm like, I can't believe this is the world we're living in. And I was this close to just unplugging and disappearing into the wilderness. And I thought, I cannot let my girls raise their future children in this society that is so backwards and twisted and is not looking at those most profoundly affected and looking to help those kids, but we're more worried about offending those with higher function. And that's where it is a minefield trying to navigate this spectrum and advocacy, because we want to celebrate people with autism, and that absolutely we can, but we conflate that with celebrating the disorder itself. And autism becomes a superpower.
And let's be clear, it's a disorder, autism spectrum disorder. So, you know, celebrating, and I know that the agenda behind that is being funded by the most powerful lobby in the world, the pharmaceutical industry. Because I know, they know, that I know.
and we know, and if you know, you know, but there's so many people that don't know.
And how do you explain those that are in your boat that have severely autistic children that get angry at Robert Kennedy Jr.?
I explain it off as politics. I can't believe that autism has become political. If he had a D in front of his name, there would probably be no issue. If the same thing were happening under Obama, he might receive a medal. But because it's happening under Trump, it just shows to me the political side of it. And you know who's oblivious to that, or you know who can't communicate about their thoughts? the ones we're meant to be advocating for. And that's where I just had enough, and I had to lift my voice, even if it's just for a time. I just had to put my truth out there for people to access, to say, this is how I got from here to here. Here's the map of how you process this journey if you're interested. It's not an easy read. It's very difficult. We try to have
It's
fun
also,
along the
I
way.
will say, it's actually beautiful, though. It isn't, you know, we're sort of hitting the frustration part because you're triggering frustration that I have.
Yes.
I'm happy to be returning to this conversation of autism. It's been a little while. There have been people that have said to me, Del, you know, the work that you're doing, you're now, you know, I've grown. My audience has grown. I started with vaccines and autism. Now I'm traveling the world. Why don't you let go of autism? You've got the COVID vaccine injuries now that are much easier to talk about with adults. We are seeing the autoimmune disease crisis. It's not as divisive. And I have said it many times, I will never drop autism. This is the greatest crime against humanity. The families that find themselves in it, this stupid HighWire that you are being forced to walk on is not fair.
Yeah.
But it's not just you, and it's not just being a parent. It affects the siblings, you know, the children, your neurotypical children are, you know, have got to think about their lives, but it also includes their brother because they don't just get to have the 1,000 dreams to walk off in the sunset. In fact, your daughter wrote a really beautiful poem about this. If we can share it, I'd love to do that.
He's 17. 17, caught at the top of each evergreen. He's never been to a party, never walked into a friend's house. He won't ever say his vows or have a spouse. He loves cars, mumbles about them like prayers, but he'll never drive one. Not here, not like this, not with a system like theirs. Neuro sparkly, not broken sea, but tell that to him, not me. If I could cure him, I would. See, acceptance looks really nice on a t-shirt until your kid bites himself so hard he bleeds, until he has to take antipsychotic meds to leave the house. The help he needs doesn't come from prayer beads. If I could cure him, I would, if only we could. I love him more than hands could hold, but that's why we fight until we're old. If there were a switch, I'd flick it. It's something no one should go through. For the sake of my kids, I'd turn it off if I could, wouldn't you? It's not love to let him suffer, not love to stand still. It's love that makes us fight for a cure, a life, and a will. As his sister, I cried till my eyes ran dry. Tears I thought I should hide. Maybe I'm the bad guy. Just accept him, they chant on repeat. Instagram makes his pain look sweet. Autism is a disability. On TikTok, it's chic. But where's the space for those who can't speak? He's the happiest boy, just let him be. But he's not the one choking on grief, it's me. It feels like they want him frozen, some untouched art, but I want him living with a voice and a heart. I want him sneaking out, yelling at games, kissing lips, not trapped in routines and medicine scripts. To fall in love, to drive, to speak and be understood. If I could cure him, I swear to God I would. Not because I don't love him, but because I do.
Powerful. So what is the goal now?
Leave the world a better place for that girl's future children. And that means having tough conversations. No parent wants to be writing this book, and it's an honor to be here, but no parent wants to be up here telling our story. That how different life could have gone for us. And I have to process that grief in my own life. My daughters will have to process that grief in their life. And I just want to do no more harm. And I have to be honest that if we think we've reached the pinnacle of human intelligence and we are making no mistakes in our modern practices, God help us. Like, science advances. What's true today is a matter of dates. It began as madness, was then grudgingly considered, then became consensus, then became truth, then became self-evident truth, such as smoking and lung cancer link. It was considered madness. So much so to the point that by 1960, only 1/3 of doctors in America believed there was a link between smoking and lung cancer. It is now self-evident. We will look back on this time in history and it will be self-evident what was contributing to the prevalence of autism in our society, and we have to speak the truth about that.
Yeah.
The goal for me is to maximize the time I have left with my son as we grow to be old men together. We've just started spelling to communicate.
Wow.
And we're 2 weeks in, we're working with Dr. Dana Johnson in Florida. And my communication partner last night sent me an email, said, I didn't get it on video, but Lyric did all of his spell words. And then so how it works, they put the pencil through the letterboard, and you look at this person who's not speaking to you, and I've never had a conversation with him. But he's answering these questions based on a lesson that we've read. And then there was a little section that it's a prior knowledge question. So this isn't information I've just told him. This is information he might or might not know. And the question was, who invented the iPhone? And Lyric put his pencil through the letterboard, Steve Jobs. And these are people society assumes has an intellectual disability because they don't have the capacity to communicate, and that's how we gauge cognition. That's how we to find out how intelligent a person is. So again, it's that vulnerability that comes with hope. Oh, spelling, that's just another thing I'm going to try that's not going to work for us. What if my son's the only one it doesn't work for? Mm-hmm. But then having read Underestimated by
J.B.
Hanley.
Who I said to you earlier, you remind me in your writing, he's a spectacular writer too. I loved the honesty, I loved the passion, the feeling, but yeah, he had the same concerns and fears about getting into it.
Yeah, and because it requires a vulnerability that's exhausting. And we will live with that for the rest of our lives. In always trying to produce more capacity in our child, not so that he can be like us, but so that he can advocate for himself, so that I can learn about what his life is like. He's 18 years old and I've never met him. Truth be told, I don't know the thoughts that are inside. I know they're there. I say that Lyric's, the lights are on, someone's home, but he's far too busy in there to come to the door to let me in. And, through the miraculous work that these practitioners are doing in learning spelling to communicate, we're learning to lower that cognitive demand, balance the motor planning issue, and find out, oh, he's coming to the door. He was there all along. So my plan is to get to know my son. I hope that the next book is called Finding the Lyrics, and that it's written by both of us, much like JB and Jamie. Like, that's the goal. But how much easier to not have to force parents to hack into their children's brain? How much easier to just solve the problem at its root, which is to limit the prevalence of autism in society. In Australia, where I live, 1 in 6 school-aged boys is receiving funds from the National Disability Insurance Scheme for autism spectrum disorder.
Wow.
1 in 6.
Wow.
There's not enough of the pie to go around. And who pays the price are those most profoundly affected, like my son. And it's not about taking money away from people. It's about looking at it honestly and going, where does this end?
Yeah.
And exposing the cognitive dissonance that say, oh, autism is just evolution. But, well, when has evolution ever required disability support funding? And if we start funding genetic variables, when do you stop?
Yeah, and by the way, kids that need sometimes 1 or 2 teachers just for themselves. Yeah. How does society, how are we going to be able to afford that? How are we going to be able to handle that? It's a spectacular book. I want 2 things I want to ask you. I want you to stick around for off the record, because I know you start out with a really strong, powerful, Christian value you met in church, but that journey, has gone through some twists and turns. If we can get into that and off the record, but will you stick around? Will you sing a song for us at the end of the show?
Yep, absolutely.
So why don't you stick around and do that? You don't want to miss this book. It's, not just if you have a child that is, on the spectrum or certainly severe autism, but just the journey itself is inspiring for what we all have to face. You get to see an incredibly brilliantly described and emotional journey that Tyler and his family's been through. It's really great. You can find it where on everywhere the.
It's on Amazon, self-published on Amazon, and the audiobook, which I read myself. I've been getting a lot of feedback that's probably the best way to consume the book, because I put a lot of my personality into it. I try to make it fun because it's such a heavy topic, so we do have a lot of fun along the way.
I'm going to sing a song called Behind Those Eyes that I wrote for my son Lyric about 10 years ago, and I think you're going to see clips of him playing behind us. He was 7 at the time. He's now 18, so the message of the song never changes, that I'll always forever trying to be the dad that my son needs. From 18 to 80 for the rest of our days, I'll always be there with him. This one's Behind Those Eyes for Lyric. They said congratulations on your baby. We're so glad he looks just like his mother. And we laughed as you grew. We dreamed of all you do. Just thankful for our healthy little boy. But by the time that you were two, a cloud had settled over you. Ooh, the boy we knew had gone away. To have him back, we'd have to wait. Take your time, take all that you need. I'll be there for you. I'll be the dad you need. Let me in your world. I just want to be with a boy that lives behind those eyes. And we searched for the answers to our questions. The doctor says there is no simple cure. And we cried and prayed, God, take this pain away. And we have found that we are not alone. Just know I won't give up on you. I'll do whatever I have to. Ooh, and I'm believing for the day when I can finally hear you say I love you. Take your time, take all that you need. I'll be there for you. I'll be the dad you need. Let me in your world. I just want to be with a boy that lives behind those eyes. And take your time, take all that you need.